What is going on, y'all? How are y'all doing today? I'm Mr. G,
I'm Agent X.
I'm the bishop.
and welcome to the Nexus podcast, where we bring together all the media that you love, where we talk about Buffy, Xena, Game of Thrones, and more, with Charmed always being the heart and center of what we do.
Okay, y'all. So we are here today to discuss the episode Dream Sorcerer, season 1, episode 5 of Charmed. Now, I found this cute little description, and the description reads: Prue finds her sleep disturbed by strange dreams in which she is stalked and taunted by a wheelchair-bound man who is actually a sleep researcher named Whitaker Berman. Oh, Whitaker Berman, yeah. He kills women who he feels scorned him by visiting them in their dreams where he has absolute power. So, y'all, let me just ask you this question. How did y'all feel about him as a villain in this episode?
It's complicated.
I go back and forth with him. Like, he wasn't the best, but he also wasn't the worst. He just was kind of disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the special victims unit of it all was another layer of it that really bothered me because like the women reject you, so you go into their dreams and kill them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
indicative. It's indicative of a larger conversation about the male ego, but we won't get into all that tonight.
And it's also kind of a little, well, I can't speak for like the disabled community, but it seems a little offensive. Like, this guy got bound to a wheelchair and then he became a murderer
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because he
Mhm.
perceived that women didn't like him because he was in a wheelchair.
I literally wrote in my notes, "This is insane." Like I just wrote the phrase, "This is insane," because when he went in Sky's dream and was like, "You turned me away, so now you got to pay the price." I was like, "Are you okay?" Like I mean, it was genuinely. I forgot about that line, and I don't even know how the conversation wasn't had at some point in the episode about how fragile men's egos can be, because it was just right there. Because I just thought
Mhm.
whoever wrote that dialogue, they had to have had a bigger picture in their head, and I don't know why, but like when this is a very small moment that I don't actually think meant anything, but I don't know why it made me like feel something, but I don't know what it felt when he sent the drink to Prue, and then she sent it back. And the girl was like, oh, I'm sorry. She said she's seeing someone, da da da. Da. And he looks at her and he's like, well, what about you? I was like, are you treating her like a second choice and then getting mad
For
that
some
she's above
consolation.
you? She's a consolation. It's like, I feel like that's the equivalent of someone who calls like a sex hotline and then they can't reach anybody. So they call they get in contact with the operator and then they're like, well, your voice sounds nice. Like it was given that. I thought that was so crazy. And then when he was like trying to flirt with her and then he scooted the wheelchair back and it made that little noise. And I was confused at what the scene was trying to tell me, because it almost felt like he was trying to like I feel really strange saying this. It almost felt like the scene was trying to tell us that he was trying to gloat being in a wheelchair. I don't know how to describe what it, but the way he did it. So he's like, so what about you? And then he like starts backing up and he's like, you want to go out with me sometime? And I was like, what was
No.
that moment supposed to be?
Well, it was supposed to show that she was disgusted by him being in a wheelchair, which is problematic in his own right.
Mm.
Because, and then they reinforced that in her dream
When she was like, you can
when,
walk.
oh, you can walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
When
kind
he
of,
said prove the drink from her angle, could you see he was
she
in a
couldn't
wheelchair?
tell.
You
She
couldn't
couldn't
tell
tell.
from
That's,
where Prue was sitting, so it had nothing to do with
yeah.
his chair.
It was so
It was
strange. It was like the way they set it up. I understand that they wanted him. He was the villain, but the way I didn't even catch that they were trying to make her be disgusted by that because it was such a strange way for him to display himself, if that makes any sense. Like I was so caught
Yeah,
off guard by that, I didn't even catch like her reaction. And it felt like even in her dream, when they were like, when she was like, "Oh, you can walk," it felt more kind of like, "Girl, what's going on?" Because I thought you were in a wheelchair, as opposed to like, "Oh my God, you can walk." I just think I don't know, maybe it was the way the actors played the scene, but I think too, another reason that he kind of gets on my nerves is because number one, the character was enjoying it just a little too much. And then number two, the actor was kind of playing him like a 1950s villain. Like he was in the
Well,
movie, like, "Oh, I've got you now." Like it was
well, his acting skills aren't anything to write home about
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because he was in the Fast and the Furious
Was it
films,
Shane?
like the first one and Fast Five.
Oh, what did he do?
Yeah, he played Vince, who was like part of Dom's gang, and he died in Fast Five. And yeah, his acting was kind of bad.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I definitely think that added to some of the character is already unlikable, I feel like by nature, like just by
Yeah,
design. And then I think the way he portrayed him made it 10 times worse because he was
yeah,
very, very creepy. And almost laughable at certain points. Like when Prue was in the bathtub and he's like putting on the leather glove. And I was like, what are we doing? Because you're in her dream. Are you leaving fingerprints? Like it anyway. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement that he wasn't. I'm not gonna say that he wasn't a great villain. I think there's just
I mean, well, he did end up killing someone, so he gets some points for that, villain wise,
that's true.
and in a unique way.
That is true.
I
It is true.
I, I kind of wish that he had came like before episode 5. I feel like he would have been better served in like one of episode 2 or 3, and we could have been past a character like him by now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think they should have emphasized maybe a little bit more too that he was human.
Yeah,
Because not for nothing, my girl killed a human.
yeah,
She didn't just vanquish a demon; she killed a
A
human, one of
human being.
many.
And it's
yeah,
weird
Yeah,
because it's like it was a necessity because there really kind of was no other way around it with the way he was. Like he was one of those people that was gonna like keep coming back or try to find a different way. So it's like I get it, but it's I think for them to have done a human is the villain episode that early should have been a
well,
bit.
actually, back to back because the previous episode had a human villain as well, and so to do two back to back was kind of
Oh,
strange.
that is true. I didn't even think about that. That is true. That is a very
I
good.
forgot about that. That is true. Ooh, they got them out here killing people.
They
Yeah,
were cutting up. See, it is okay. So this frustrates me a little bit in the moment because moving forward just a little bit, and by a little bit I mean the end of the series. We had the whole Billy and Christy arc, and the whole thing is that they're human, and so it's like
yeah,
for that to be such a huge plot point later on, you would think in the very beginning when they weren't even sure what their powers were, who they were as witches, anything like that, you would think it would be a huge thing that they were human. But it kind of
yeah,
was part of the episode. That is interesting.
yeah.
They
And there was
barely even mentioned.
there was there was no conversation about him being human,
Mm-mm.
Like, what's
after
the
Prue killed him.
consequence?
Yeah, because uh Piper and Phoebe had like a little conversation about how he might be human, but that was interrupted, and then Prue ended up killing him, and that was it. Like,
because it almost feels like a course of action that they could have taken was
yeah,
your classic, like, we found his house, we destroy his machine, and then he tries to attack one of them, and then you go from there. Which, I mean, it still works, I think, the way it unfolded, but I feel like there just should have been an extra layer. Like, it shouldn't have been season 2 and Prue was like, I've never killed a human before, because
yeah,
you have.
yeah. And, and she had to have known, if not then, after, because Andy would have told her
Mm-hmm.
that, oh yeah, like we found such and such,
Mm-hmm.
but he was already dead. And like they was about to arrest him, so the problem was about to be over anyway. But she, like,
She beat him to
she
it. She's
didn't,
having to kill him.
like, she didn't have to kill him.
Prue said, baby, listen, y'all got a solution, and so do I. She said,
And we'll see who enacted first. And it was her.
she said, and mine gonna be a little bit more permanent than y'all, so.
Uh,
He won't hurt another woman in her dreams, I'll tell you that much.
That part.
right.
That part. If I could tell
He
you
won't be
one
having
thing.
dreams anymore. He won't even have his own dreams.
So, how do y'all feel about this being the first time that Prue, basically kills a human and they just sort of move past it?
I really, I just really wish there was that conversation afterwards, just to see like how she felt about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of follow up, and I think especially with them being so new to it, I think that would have been a good moment to reflect on the fact that they have to fight more than just demons. Like,
Right.
sometimes, especially because, I mean, this is a new ish supernatural show, because you can kind of get away with Yama, right? Because he was an
Hmm.
otherworldly being, and then you got Mark the Ghost, and we're trying to solve a murder. So that's kind of like the overall plot. And then the human villain is sort of like almost maybe not tertiary, but at least secondary to, he's a part of the main thing, but the magic is still like at the forefront. But this one is just straight up human, doing human things. And he just so happened to be able to like find a way to get into people's subconscious. Like, this was, mm, I think it definitely would have been a good part of the episode. So,
Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball because I know Supernatural in their first season they did an episode where they found out that the villains that they were after were human,
mm-hmm,
and it was kind of like a big deal.
mm-hmm,
And like the lesson of it was that humans can be just as bad as the monsters.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can we talk about the fact that Andy had the whole thing figured out though?
He did, from like the
Yeah.
first minute, like
And
as
it
soon as
blew
they
my
went in there,
mind.
soon as they went in there, and he was like, all her bones been crushed or whatever, or she looked like, he was like, yeah, this ain't right. He was like, nah, this ain't right, bro. Like, he is immediately knew something was up.
I was kind of shook because I mean I'm not for
Yeah.
nothing, but Andy really he was like, no, he did it, and Daryl was like, are you sure? How do you know? I know because I know he did it.
Yeah.
Wake him up now.
Yeah, I know because my girlfriend's sister used to freeze me all the time, and then she would disappear, and her grandma would be there.
And that's how I know.
Like, it was given very much do as I say, not as I do. And I know I may be acting a little crazy right now, but I'm telling you, bring him out of this so I can, like, Andy said,
And
baby,
you know
this case.
it was crazy is when you look at it and you see how quickly Andy's putting together the freaky deaky cases, you kind of see how he's on a crash course for like death. You can kind of see it
Yeah.
because he's poking his head in places he's not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
yeah,
get yourself killed.
yeah. It's also funny to me when they found the Dream Sorcerer dead, and Daryl's like, "I'll never doubt you again." Okay, what did you see that proved Andy's point? You saw a dead
Nothing.
man.
And it's
Because all
funny.
he did was
I'll never doubt you again. And then later on, when they tell you they're witches, you're like, I ain't gonna do that. Like,
all I think he saw that man bugged his eyes out and then he died.
that's it.
Right.
That's it. That's all that happened. That's all that happened. And it's like, it's fun going back watching these episodes because I truly forget sometimes Daryl was a day one. Like he wasn't just some throwaway character that came in like
Mm-mm.
season two to replace Andy and then we formed a connection with him. Daryl truly was there, like literally the first
Yeah.
episode. And it's
Yeah.
good to see him, I think, juxtaposed to Andy, who is already kind of open to the supernatural, but then Daryl is the one that's like, you just making this up. I don't know. I can't explain it. You can't explain it, and we're not gonna try to explain it. But later on, I think he still keeps that same attitude where it's like, I'm involved in it now, but I'm gonna stay as far out of it as I possibly can. Don't tell me too much, but I got you.
Mm-mm.
And it's fun to watch him go. I say fun, but seeing him now be like the skeptical partner who is not really vibing with all of this, and then knowing later on like how he helps them, and they call him when they need something is it's a cool evolution to think about, and I can't wait to actually watch it unfold.
Yeah. And I wonder like what his character trajectory would have been if Andy hadn't died.
Do you think they would have
Uh,
eventually written him out?
uh, well, I don't know if they would have written him out, but uh like I don't think he would have found out their secret that early.
Mm-hmm.
Because he
Mm-hmm.
kind of had to take over like Andy's part.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like Andy probably would have got some kind of promotion, and so would Daryl. But I feel like Andy probably would have ended up being in charge at one point. But I do feel like the run-ins with the Halliwells probably would have cost him his job eventually either way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't keep being an inspector or detective and your girlfriend is out here tied to all these freaky cases. It just don't make sense.
Yeah. Every
Right.
time something strange happens, your girlfriend pops up and she's on the scene. And then next thing you know, when things get resolved, there she is. And what I do like about Charm in this first season, what I do appreciate is how their witchness crosses paths with police, because
Yeah.
what I think about sometimes when especially when I watch them is like witches back in the old days really could move in secret. Like, they could move in the dark, they could move at night, stuff like that. And the police might come around and be like, "Oh, there's something strange afoot," but in the 90s I feel like it's a little bit harder because everything is more connected, and there's alarms and there's this, then things can automatically let the police know that something is amiss, and people have phones now, so it's not like the police have to patrol at night, and you can figure out their routes and stuff like that. you I mean, like, you could get caught really at any moment. And so them being witches and protecting innocence in this day and age, and even in that time, is completely different than what like their ancestors had to deal with. So it's good to kind of see that it's not just like the police don't have any idea what's going on and then they just let it go. Like their activities are, intercepting, intersecting.
Yeah.
Now that's a weird observation to make, but
No, not really, because I mean, I can say for me, I grew up, tail end of the 80s into the 90s. So really everything was everywhere. There really wasn't like I grew up with people who claimed they were quote unquote witches. And they told everybody. So like it wasn't even a secret. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm into witchcraft. And people were looking at them like, that's dark sided, excuse me.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
looked at differently today. I grew up; it was very, very demonic, and religious
Oh,
family as it is.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But this, yeah, I'm gonna think about how Phoebe really was just telling anyone that she was a witch, and she did, like she used that to get that job,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
saying
And then
she's a
even in this episode,
psychic.
when she whispers in the man's ear, and she's like, "I'm not an angel, I'm a witch." And it's like it's funny because we know that she's for real, but I can imagine that man
Mm-mm.
being like, especially that black man being like, "What?"
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that note
Oh, it,
about that because, like, not for nothing. Like, I know you're joking, but you're telling people that you're a witch. What if somebody believes you?
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm. Or what if, he was a demon in disguise and now you have randomly told him that you're a witch and he's like, well, if you're really a witch, let me go find out. And he attacks you in an alleyway and it's like, this is before Phoebe was, boxing. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, well, then again, my girl did have some good instincts because this was back in the cut, back when she would just run. She saw danger and she would get up out of there.
Yeah, she get on that bike and go.
Not the bike. See, that's what I love about the
But
job in the episode when she realized that when she got that vision and she threw that stuff down and she jumped in that van and she left.
uh, oh, and when she walked into Quake and like she owned the place in that dress,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that was a moment for the history book.
Mm-hmm. She looked so good. I said, yes, ma'am.
Like I couldn't even blame the guys for going up to her.
Oh my God. And speaking of that man, listen, Phoebe said she might be a lot of things, but one thing she's not is about to mess with somebody ugly. That man was so fine. And he was like 1,000 feet tall, and those shoulders and that chest and that back. I was like, girl, okay. I said, you know what? My girl got, but then what's weird is he kind of looked like Clay.
Oh, I wonder if that was like a subconscious thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was picturing him when she said the spell, and it kind of like drew someone that looks like him to her.
That's a good point. And speaking of subconscious, when the dream sorcerer tried to drown Prue in the bathtub, I wondered if that's because he could see that she was afraid of drowning.
Oh, that is a good.
Because I was
Yeah, that's a good question.
like if that was their intention was to have him try to do that because of that fear, then I was like, look at Charmed trying to set stuff up early. Look at them actually having a vision for what they were trying to do.
How about
Yeah,
that?
But I,
even
I,
though it was probably just a coincidence,
I
or
I
think it was
really
they.
feel
just a
like it was a
coincidence.
coincidence. I
It
really
was a
feel like
coincidence.
it
They
was.
didn't. They didn't have the range to think that long.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. Because it was like after he's taunting her about Patty, and it was like the scene caught me that off guard. I was like, oh, he's taunting her about Patty, and then next thing you know, he's drunk. I said, okay, charm, but no, I'm like you. I think it was just pure coincidence.
Yeah.
Something that happened by accident that we can tie with because we have brains that work.
Hmm.
And they were just making episodes up as they went. I
Just making stuff
Right.
up.
And then, but the production order was different for the first season, right? Like some of the episodes were done
Yeah.
out of sequence of when they aired.
Yeah.
So I would have used that to my advantage, but that's
And you can kind of tell when you watch it. Although I wonder, I don't know what the exact order is, but you can kind of tell by looking at like the hair in some episodes. It's like, wait a minute.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
clothes wise, I think I dropped out for a second, but Phoebe really did look good this episode.
She
I'm gonna give it to her. She was eating.
she did.
Yeah. Until the
I
very
was
end, when she borrowed Piper's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
that last dress. I said, so you did it. You did it all episode, and now you come up in here looking like a librarian. Got it.
Because
Because there's a top. I don't know what scene it is. I don't know if it's in the kitchen or if she's walking in the quake. But there's a scene somewhere, and I'm like, wait a minute, because Phoebe just ate everybody up, and all she did was walk in the room.
when she was eating a cereal when she walked in, when Piper was
That top, that top she had on was killing it.
And she just walked in the room. Just if that's the thing you're talking about, like even I mean, but she just walked in and it was like, let me get up out of here, child. It's
She,
okay. Prue, I feel like Prue's wardrobe this episode was very like basic. If this is how this Prue dresses, I would love to see how the evil universe is Prue dressed first season, because I feel like they wore the same clothes. I feel like they wore the exact same clothes for some reason.
I wrote a note that said elementary school librarian. That's what it was giving me, because she loved the nice little dress with like a suit top over it, like a little blazer. Her and Piper. Please, please put something on. They're supposed to be in their 20s and they dress like they're a school nurse.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right.
It was, I mean, it is the way they dress, I'm like,
But
girl.
but you know what? There was kind of like that 90s style because they used to dress like that in Buffy too.
Oh, they did. And but okay, so here's what's fun about Buffy, right? Buffy dressed the character of Buffy dressed like she had money. Like you would think that she was like on Cordelia's level of the money.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was always very fashionable, very fashion forward. Even like on her least cute days, she was eating everybody up. And then
Yeah.
you have Willow, that I get they were going for quirky friend, but the way Willow dressed,
Oh my goodness.
I, I just wouldn't have worn it. I think I would have quit the role if they told me that they did half of the stuff that they had that woman wearing.
And
That
like
bad.
she dressed like Piper and Prue.
Yeah, just more cartoonish, just more
Yeah.
like the child version. But you know what? What's funny is that even the child versions of them dressed better than Willow.
Yeah.
Even when Piper
And
had on those overalls talking about what he said to, like she was still eating Willow up.
yeah, and like when you found out like her parents didn't really care about her, I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I know because
Mhm.
no parent, no mother will let their daughter out of the house to go to high school dressed like that. Even the most religious mother would not let their child out the house looking like that.
Not Carrie and her dirty pillows.
Like we could find you like a Christian dress that looks better than this that can cover your knees.
Listen, I can get Candace Cameron Bure on the phone right now, and she can find you something that looks 10 times better than what you got on. It,
Right.
it's just, and then you go back and you watch it, and Xander's always wearing like a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
But I mean, the character Xander could burn in eternal hellfire, and so I don't really care.
Oh, okay.
Oh, when I tell you people hate Xander,
Is that the one? Is that the one that had the blonde hair? No. Who is that? Spike?
uh,
Who's the blonde hair?
That's Spike.
Spike,
Okay.
but
You
Spike
know,
comes later on.
Mhm.
And didn't what you call Willow's boyfriend? Did he go through a phase
Yes,
where he had
Oz
like the
was
frosted
blonde.
tips?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oz was blonde for a little while. Yes, child, Xander. I don't even think there's a character on Charm that I hate as much as I hate Xander. The closest I
No.
probably get is like Christy. And I am going to say this on the record. I think I like Christy compared to Xander. I think that compared to Xander, Christy is
I'm
my
trying
favorite.
to think if there's anybody on Zenith that you might hate that much.
Oh my God.
Mm, Callisto, maybe, but I don't know if you'd hate her. I think you may. I mean,
I,
you hate her, but
I
you also pity her a little bit.
Mhm.
I love
yeah.
I love a character that you can like hate with a deep passion, and it's never going to change. That's me with a lot of people on TV, like Meredith Grey. I'm never going to like her.
Yeah,
When I think of Game of Thrones, I'm never going to like the twin lovers. I'm never going to like them. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
but see, in those cases, there's like a intentionality to it. Like,
Yeah.
but Xander, like I think he's supposed to be one of those characters that you like because he's supposed to be like that quirky, sarcastic,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe smart guy,
Yeah.
but it
You're,
just the
you're supposed,
Maybe.
execution.
yeah, like James is saying, I mean, he's absolutely right. You're supposed to hate Cersei, but Xander, I think, is the one you're actually supposed to find the most relatable, and I think you're
Yeah,
supposed to like be rooting for him actively when he does stuff like get mad at Buffy because she won't go out with him, and then has like a big
yeah,
blow up and like starts reading her, and I'm like, just kill it before it dies.
yeah. And then he strings Willow along.
Mm-hmm. And then he messes over Cordet.
Yeah.
I just okay. I need therapy.
Oh, and Anya, like
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
he's
For seasons, she is just his little lapdog. And this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but the character of Anya kind of served
I
me.
don't like her really.
I feel like I don't. I mean, I like Anya because she's funny, but I don't like Anya as a character. Like I like Anya because she is funny and she has insightful moments, but the character I remember one time I said the character could have not been on the show after like season 3 or 4 and it wouldn't have changed. And somebody was like, she was their in-house demonologist. She knew about demons because she was one. So a lot would have changed. And I was like, baby,
Okay.
I don't
No,
I don't think you
Giles
understand.
was their expert
Uh-huh.
on demons.
Uh-huh. And the
And,
thing is like if the character wasn't there, guess what? They still would have got the information. They just would have gotten it course. Like,
yeah,
baby.
but you brought up a good point. Like she shouldn't have been there that long because at a certain point, her little gimmick got tired. Okay, you've been living among humans for too long to not know anything about them at this point.
Mm-hmm. 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 It's season 6 and we still listening to Anya talk about money. It's season 7 and we still listening to her talk about bunnies. I can't, like, I don't have the capacity for what they were trying to give us. And it
And it makes it worse because she was supposed to be Cordelia's replacement.
huh?
Yeah,
She what?
yeah. That's
She
why
was
she
supposed to replace
became.
Cordelia.
Yeah, that's why she became a main character in season 4, and that's why she has those little quips. She's supposed to like be funny in the way that Cordelia was, and kind of like living in her own reality. But you know, Cordelia left big shoes, and Anya, she just you don't compare where you don't compete.
He
Cordelia
said he
left
don't see
behind
it. He said he
Louboutins.
don't.
Cordelia
He
left
said he
behind
don't see it.
Louboutins, and Anya was Skechers. There, there,
Right.
there's
That's being
no
nice.
that's
That's being nice.
that's being very nice. If you had told,
Yeah.
I never knew that. I think I never knew that, and I never would have thought that. But not because I can kind of see it now that you said that because I can see the similarity. But
Yeah.
Cordelia, at least, was a person first and foremost. And it didn't have anything about being like human, but she was a character and
Yeah.
she was fleshed out. She had a history, she had a life outside of what was going
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
Anya was
She showed growth.
yeah, Anya was a device. Oh, Jesus. Okay, my blood pressure. Mm-mm,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh,
mm-mm.
y'all done woke up now. Y'all done activated her now.
because Joss Whedon is already gonna
Uh-oh.
pay for everything he's done. But now that I know this, I'm going to make sure he pays because no,
Did you say Joss Whedon or did you say Jocelyn?
whoever Joss
Josh,
Whedon and
Josh
Joss Whedon,
Whedon.
both of
Because
them.
it sounded like you said Jocelyn, and I said, "Oh my god!"
Now, she can pay too.
She can,
Everybody,
yeah.
that's
She
how
can
upset
pay
I am right now.
too. I mean, as someone who never really watched the show, I was also listening to the young woman who played the seer talk about some of her experience and reading the timeline, and it seems like because I not really didn't really watch. It seems like he wasn't really a nice person,
No,
Mr.
he
Whedon.
fired her because she got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me?
Yeah, and killed her
Ask
off.
her
I
if
didn't know
did
that.
he ask her if she was gonna keep it?
Oh, I
Yeah,
know you lying to me. I know you fucking lying
yeah.
to me.
He did.
He either asked her, he either asked her if he was gonna keep it, or like insinuated that she shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm about to keep. Only thing I'm about to keep is myself from kicking your ass. Excuse me. And I'm assuming she was. I mean, was she somebody that was popular or well liked on the show? I
So
don't know.
you,
I'm totally oblivious when it comes to Buffy universe
Oh, you're asking if Cordelia was liked on the show or
because
correct?
it seems like the
oh,
people that I see talking about it seem to really, really enjoy her. So they share
oh,
her experience a lot. And I'm thinking, damn, it was that bad. If you're like someone the fans like and they treat you like shit,
Mm-hmm.
oh, she's probably like one of the most popular characters on both shows.
Yes.
People were
I,
pissed about, to this day, pissed about what
I,
happened with her on Angel. Yeah, because I'm not even gonna lie, Cordelia's my fave from the whole franchise.
Yes. Like I love me some Cordy. I love the character and I love a good complex character. I love
Hmm.
one that has layers to them that you can be like, I hated that character at first, and then they did this. And she's one
Yeah.
of those characters that I think really, really thrived when she got away from that main cast and could kind of carve her own place
Uh,
into, Angel and
yeah,
then scoot her over.
yeah, because she was the second lead on Angel,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, she really got, yeah, and hey, and who ended up falling in love with her?
Mm,
Angel.
that part. Her.
Oh, and I hate that they ruined that. Like, like at first I was like, huh, they shouldn't do this, but they're like they really sold it, and by the time that they really was able to act on it, Joss Whedon and his demon self
Mm-hmm.
just ruined it.
Mm-hmm. When they sent my girl to heaven and she had that blonde mop, I said, okay.
Yeah,
Right. It's like it looked cute-ish, a cute adjacent, but then it was like soccer mom.
yeah.
So, but anyway, okay. So, speaking of falling in love, because I'm trying to find a good segue. What do we think of the B plot of this episode with Piper and Phoebe casting the love spell or the spell to attract a
you mean
lover?
you mean their personal game spell?
Why was that spell in the Book of Shadows?
I wrote that, and then it was funny because Piper, when they're in the kitchen and Prue finds out about what they're doing, Piper's like, all these all these spells are in the book for a reason, right? So that must mean, and I was like, that does make
Uh,
sense. Like if I was them, I would think logically because this is in the book, it must be okay for me to use this. It would never occur to me that this is some kind of personal game because I mean, why is it in the book?
right.
I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even have thought about it.
It's
Like,
kind of like with the truth spell,
mm-hmm,
like like the book slash grounds basically pressured her to cast in the truth spell.
mm-hmm,
And then it was like, oh yeah, you got these consequences because it was a personal gain.
mm-hmm.
Okay, but I tried to walk away, and and the page opened back up and pulled me back. So what else was I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird because it's like I feel like this is yet another reason why I could not personally be a good witch in this universe. Because please explain to me in like the most basic dumb terms why you're giving me access to magic and then letting me use it to teach me a lesson. That's crazy.
Right.
That makes no
Yep.
sense. And I'm like, girl, hang it up.
It's like y'all are kind of like the villain.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Because
Like,
like
You're
if you
playing with me.
because like if you wanted someone to just like fight evil, then why don't you get some white lighters to do it? Like
mm-hmm,
why can't I just enjoy my life
mm-hmm,
demon free?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's just it doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's there. You're telling you apparently one of their ancestors wrote it, and they're like, "Girl, this is gonna teach them real good about personal gain." Like it feels like they're set up. And then like, what if that's what it feels like. It feels like what's the point? And then what if Phoebe had been by herself or something, and that man, somebody had tried to hurt her. Like then what? What if Piper wasn't there to freeze them? What was the game plan? Magic was just gonna
Right.
girl, I mean, you did it to yourself. I don't know what to say.
So when you think about it, like think about when they sent them to the future when they burned Phoebe up. They couldn't just tell her that lesson. They had to go and burn her up at the stake and let her actually get burned to a crisp to learn a lesson. There had
and
to
let
be an easier
her
way.
come to the conclusion that she needed to get burned at the stake. That's what's even worse.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Like what if she did connect those dots?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Because
my girl Prue really was about to kill everybody up in that jail, though. She really was.
Uh-huh.
he
She's
was.
gonna murder everybody.
You know what's funny about that episode though is that Phoebe, who is usually smart and can kind of like navigate a situation, but the fact that she like was like, I mean, what I did wasn't that bad, right? And I was like, Phoebe, shut the fuck up, shut up, man. Like,
And
why
she
would
was
you
so
even?
nonchalant with
Yeah,
Leo, and he was like, you're in here for murder, right?
right. I. It's like, why would you? I wouldn't have even said anything. I would have been like, girl, what happened? Like, I wouldn't try to downplay it because clearly you're in jail. So I'm going to assume it was something big. And she's just like, I mean, it wasn't that bad.
You're on death row, sis.
Like, my love, you're about to get burned at the stake in 5 minutes. Come on.
You think
But
you in here for jaywalking?
You said what?
I said, do you think you in here for jaywalking, sis? Come on, come on.
All right. Like, be for real, man. Be for real. Like, be for real, please. I'm just like,
It sends me because they really had to beg Prue
mm-hmm,
not to commit mass murder.
mm-hmm.
what if she
And
did
I'm just like,
though?
wow, y'all were gonna write in here that she was. What was gonna be the consequence?
Like what would have happened
She
if
killed
Prue
everybody.
murdered everyone and they got Phoebe because there was no spell for them to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think they get to
and
go
the
back
elder
home.
and then the elders wouldn't bring them back if they didn't learn that lesson. So what would have been your end game?
It'd be like
Right.
probably one of those deja vu all over again days that they live the same day over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every day Prue murdered more and more people.
And, and I feel like especially because season two Prue was just ready to kill, she would have been like, okay, so I only killed 2 people last time. Now I'm gonna kill 5 and see what happens. Like Prue, no. They'd be like, Prue, stop trying to kill people. And she's like, but
Could
She's
that's
gonna walk in the
fair.
room and just start murdering people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like,
Ooh, and she wasn't Astro because if she was Astro projecting at that point, could you imagine her murdering people, multiple people at once?
Ooh,
Oh,
baby, Lord Jesus, just literally Jack the Ripper, Jackette the Ripper.
Because it
I
really Phoebe was like, Prue, please put your hand down. Please.
I
Phoebe
can
always
imagine. I can imagine like after like the 50th day, Piper like wake up on the couch, turn the TV on, and she see like a whole country gone because Prue didn't even stop by. Didn't even stop by the manor to get Piper. She just started murdering folks.
just went to town. Just
She
went to
went to look. She went to one of her international buckling locations and started murdering in that country.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I'm telling you, it is hilarious. And you know, another thing that I think is funny about Piper and Phoebe doing this episode is knowing that Piper and Paige do, I mean not Piper, Phoebe and Paige do it for Piper in season 6. So it's like
Yeah.
if between
Mhm.
seasons 1 and 6, Phoebe is like, I remember a lesson about personal gain, but I don't remember what it was. And like when Piper's like, you should know better than this. You would think that she would be like, you that would have been a good moment for Phoebe to be like, girl, remember when we tried to get them in with that spell? And she was like, shush, you know, and whatever. And Paige is like, see, you're not as
Mhm.
responsible as you try. Like that could have been a cute little sister moment, but instead it was like, why you got Phoebe still again leading the charge in something like that? Like, get my
She
girl a
hasn't grown
break.
at all.
The done.
At
You know,
all.
what and what gets me is it was like that episode right after. Oh no, 2 episodes later, I think. I can't remember the other, but like she did the smart spell. It was like no personal gain.
Mm,
Okay, I don't think magic works like that. You can't just say no personal gain
yes,
and
yes. Like you can't
and
you phrase in there and then everything is gonna be all right.
yeah. And then Piper, in the three faces of Phoebe,
Oh,
Piper was like, "Oh, well, you know how to word it so there's no personal gain." Like, no, it doesn't work like that. It's
it
the
does not.
intention.
It's the intention behind the spell, my guy. Like, come on. And it's like this episode again, I was shocked at Prue's response because Prue didn't care. She initially was kind of like, y'all are doing what? And then it was like, girl, listen. She was like, I got other stuff going on. If y'all cast
Yeah.
a spell, and they were like, we were hoping you would join us, and she was like, no, thank you. I'm gonna go watch QVC. Like, I was like, what are we doing? What is happening? Like, why do I remember Prue being like the no man, we're not doing that person? And then this episode, and when Phoebe was abusing her powers for personal gain and money, Prue again was like, oh, well, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. Thank you for the thought. I was like, what?
You
I
know, she had a job. She trying to deal with her own relationship. She was worn down. She
yeah, Prue.
can't. She can't be going. She can't deal with them every episode.
Mm-hmm. I do kind of think this is a good because even Prue like did her own personal gain stuff in the first season. Like even the power to the spell to multiply her powers and whatever else. Like I don't think that was her
Uh-huh.
necessarily, but you know, it was kind of like she didn't know what was gonna happen. She just did it. So they were all kind of toying with magic to a certain extent. Even the truth spell, you know, even though she got peer pressured into it, but
Mhm.
it's I think that this is a good example, like going back and watching this is a good example of my thought process. Now, I'm not saying it's true, but that the show kind of picked a character trait for everyone, like later on, and then just like amplified it. And I think Prue is the first one we see kind of like turn into that because Prue truly didn't care. Like when she was initially kind of like disturbed, and then she was like, "Girl, let me go eat my broccoli and y'all do whatever it is y'all gonna do and
Oh, I
go."
knew the broccoli was gonna make an appearance.
Oh, you know I'm bringing that broccoli up whenever I can. See, we already passed the episode, so I got to find a way to sneak it in. And so, but I feel like season 3 specifically is when they took that Prue is the oldest, she's the most reliable, the most responsible, whatever. I think they took that and they inflated it times 1,000. And
Yeah.
because if you just watch this season, you would be like, she fusses, but I mean, you're like, okay, whatever. Do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, you know what? And part of that comes because she couldn't escape to work. Like, she had that photography gig, but she was home a lot more.
That's a good point. That is a very, very good point. She had more time to like actually think about it and focus. And I think another big difference between season 1 and season 3 is that there was a specific threat. Like,
Hmm.
even though they were still throwing kind of like random-ish demons at us, there was still like there was Balthazar, there was the Source, there was the
Or
Triad. Like there was something coming after them, and they had a name to it. Whereas
hmm
season 1, it was just kind of like demons got to turn their fingers into keys to get in the house.
there was no looming threat
There was no
over
looming
them.
threat. People sending you drinks and getting mad because you sent it back. I mean, like there was no need for her to be Miss Military Lady like she was in season 3.
Yeah, because especially like in the first season, like the demons weren't really after them like that. They would more come across them rather than them being like specific targets.
Yeah. Like they would come across them, and then the ones that were after them typically were after the book or their
Hmm.
powers. And so it was like
Hmm.
they were just sort of almost nuisances or in the way. Like they were the only thing standing between them and getting their powers, or whatever the case may be. So and I think by season 3 as well, they're the charmed ones. Whereas in season
Yeah.
1, it was like some of the demons knew they were the charmed ones, some of them didn't. It was a toss up, whereas like you get a show like Buffy, and I know we do a lot of Buffy and Charmed comparisons, but I think that's a good thing because I think people try to compare them where they really weren't in the same league. They were in the same category, but not the same league. Um,
Yeah.
because like Buffy from day one was the Slayer. Like
Hmm.
they knew who Buffy was. Her identity was known. Like even if you didn't necessarily know that Buffy was the current incarnation of the Slayer, you knew that the Slayer was somewhere. You like when they fought her, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm fighting the Slayer." And so she had that reputation that preceded her, whereas them, you would run into a lot of demons who would just call them witches. The witches.
Hmm.
There was a witch there. There were witches there. And so, until you kind of find out that they're the charmed ones, unless you already knew beforehand, it's kind of like, I can probably handle a witch or two. Like I think
Yeah.
about Andrus, and like he was hot when he found out that Balthazar wanted him to turn sisters against each other. He was like, I've turned nations against each other. I've made entire war start. And I was like, first, you know that's what that mean, dude. I was like, first off, sir, you're at about a 10, and I need you to bring it down to about a 4. But and he looked like his breath stank, but that's not good. Um, but even with that, then when he finds out that the charmed ones, he's like, you said they were witches.
Like I ain't signed up for this.
Yeah, he was like, you told me that they were witches. You didn't say they were the charmed ones. And so it's like by that time, there's I mean, even I feel like in season 1, demons were scared of the charmed ones, but not like I was gonna like I think about the shapeshifters. I go back to them so much because they were so fun. And like the
Yeah.
fact that these very, I'm going to say, low level demons were that invested and were just like, these aren't school witches we're fighting. And at first I was like, that's so cool that he knows that they're the charmed ones. And then I'm like, these are low level demons that are going after the charmed ones. And it's like, they weren't scared. Like, even later on, you had higher level demons who knew that they had to approach the charmed ones a certain way. But I feel like that was the reputation that they had,
Mhm.
like built. Because I think in season 1, it was like, even if you knew who the charmed ones were, they hadn't been in the world. There was no precedent for like, how talented they would be as witches, or you just knew that they were powerful, but you don't know how powerful. And I don't know. Anyway, I did a lot of talking about that, and I'm sorry. Let me be quiet.
Well, what I think cemented their reputation is when they supposedly vanquished Balthazar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, you took out this upper level demon, like basically in the source's inner circle,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like,
And then when
and that,
they took out the source
Yeah.
the first time,
yeah,
it was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, these girls are they're something. They are the moment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like do y'all feel like maybe, and I'm gonna say this and then we can kind of get back to what we were discussing, but do you think that um them thwarting the apocalypse and apocalypse not made the source look at them different? The only but I th- I think the reason I'm asking about that one particularly is that they didn't necessarily do anything like magically as the charmed ones, but because
hmm
they made the decision to put the greater good before their sisterhood, do you think the source was like, these are some witches I need to watch out for?
Well, I think so like, because they did like prevent the apocalypse. Like that's a big thing.
That's true. That is very, very true. That is a
Yeah,
huge. Mhm.
And
and
they did it
I,
without one sister, pretty much.
yeah,
Because I almost feel like that moment could have been a make or break for the source. And if I'm being 100% honest, I kind of think he played the wrong hand. Like, I know he couldn't go forward with the apocalypse without um the fourth one, but he temporarily at least had gotten rid of a charmed one. And
yeah,
they may or may not have had the power to bring him back. So bring her back. So what I would have done
hmm
personally, I would have just vanquished the three horsemen that were left, and then
yeah.
gone from there.
Recruit some new ones. Yeah.
But then I also wonder, especially because it never came back up. But then I also wonder if the one that was with Prue, if his powers would have been able to transfer over if he was still
Oh yeah.
technically alive. So he might have just been like playing his best hand. And then why was the source in charge of stuff like that? Because he didn't seem like he was doing a great job. That seemed like they just kind of threw that in there, like to
No,
throw.
it wasn't executed well at all.
Mm-mm.
It
No,
was a
but I
dumb
get.
plan.
Like
Yeah,
that
but
was such a big thing to introduce and then not do anything else with it ever again.
right. Like they could have been like a
Um,
season 8 thing.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They really could have brought the Four Horsemen back in season 8 and been like,
Uh,
I love to
or in
see
new
in
bodies.
the place they were working at. We could have expanded on that a little bit more.
yep, exactly.
hmm
There's a
Exactly.
lot of rich information we could have got from that little, I call it like their little newsroom when they were working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was so much they did. I just that they could have done with that, but they didn't. So, and it's kind of like, taking this back to Piper and Phoebe. It's like, I don't know how I'm gonna segue back into this, so I'm just gonna do it. But Piper and Phoebe, it's fun watching Piper and Phoebe have like fun with magic this early. And the reason
Yeah.
I think I was gonna try to segue back into them was I was thinking how Phoebe is the one who thwarted that because of her premonition. And then in this episode, we see her having like so much fun with magic and really wanting to explore what it can do. And it's it's nice to see that like even a season later, she already has this really intense understanding of how their magical choices can affect the world. So just that,
Yeah.
progression from season 1 to season 2 is interesting.